we know that you're involved in some of the most senior crime groups in the UK. Why did you want to meet us today?
You try and get to the truth of the murders, and this is the truth.
So can you tell me how it was set up?
I can.
Do you know any of the people who were involved?
You've got to be a bit careful because it's conspiracy to murder.
Do you think that either Michael Steele or Jack Waynes were involved in this?
No, not in any shape or form whatsoever.
And how can you be so sure?
Because I was involved.
This case now for 2.5 years, over 2.5 years. And without doubt, it's the biggest case we've come across.
It was beside this farm gate near Chelmsford the Range Rover containing the men's bodies was found. All three were shot in the head at least twice at close range with a shotgun.
What's at stake is whether or not there has been miscarriage of justice.
Two ruthless gunmen, Michael Steele and Jack Waynes, received 3 life sentences at the Old Bailey. The convictions have been described as some of the most important in Essex in the past 30 years.
There's no fingerprints, there's no blood, there's no DNA, and we found very little material that supports and corroborates whether or not Steele and Waynes are guilty. What it comes down to is the testimony of Darren Nichols. And we found evidence that raises serious doubts about what he said on the witness stand. But Darren Nichols is in witness protection. We can't question him. That's as far as it goes. And so our best hope is to find evidence that someone else carried out the murders. We've read every last piece of paper. We've talked to everybody we could talk to, scouring for any information that's out there. But it's complicated because it's been built up into a great big frenzy of theories on social media. There's one group where 56,000 people follow it. You know, there's YouTube sites that pump stuff out on a daily basis, which means there are so many different suggestions as to what happened. So we have to tread carefully, because so many of them could turn out to be nonsense. But one of them could turn out to be true.
This is my studio. This is where we make all the videos and we try and get to the bottom of this case. I've been doing this for ages now, but never in a million years did I dream it might be me that found the answer to what really happened. All my life I've been fascinated by the gangster world. You know, I'm a father of 4 and I couldn't be further away from being a gangster or a mafioso, but love it, absolutely love it. Especially the Essex boys. I started years ago, I found out about all these online groups. You've only got to go on them for 10 minutes and you're hooked.
It could have been the farmers that owned the land, it could have been the police, it could have been somebody in the criminal underworld.
I started making videos and putting them up online to talk about the Essex boys case.
What is the underworld? Robbing, stealing, cheating. If they went on trial today, they would have walked it. They would have gotten a unanimous not guilty.
Our channel was escalating so fast, getting thousands of views. And that's how it all happened. One day my friend Lee said to me, I know gangster Steve Miparelis. and we could possibly get him on board to speak about the Essex boys. He knew Tucker taking Rolf. He rolled with them, he's in their gang, he done jobs with them, you know, dealt drugs with them. So Steve Nicorelis, for me, was absolute gold.
I'm here today with Steve Ellis, otherwise known as Nipper. So we've got some questions here from the Facebook group, Essex Boys The Truth, Nothing But The Truth. Who out of the three did you get on with the best? Pat?
All the way through the interview, and asking question after question, it was very, very interesting, but nothing new.
So Tony was always money orientated. That was it. He lived for money.
But it soon changed.
Right, final question. This is a question everyone wants to know. Who killed Pat, Tony and Craig?
I had no idea he was going to confess the part he played in their deaths. The whole incredible story.
I'll tell you what happened, right?
We was like, wow, that actually could be true. That could be true.
Me and the Essex boys went back a long time. I was a criminal. Fraud, robberies, theft. In them days it was commit crimes, get nicked, get banged up, get out, and do it again. And I got sent to Chelmsford. I got remanded to Chelmsford prison. That's when I met Pat Tate. He was a good friend. And when he got out, we sort of started our criminal empire. Drugs, selling drugs, burglaries, nicking safes. It was great. But then Pat was out one night and he said to me, he said, oh, I met this guy last night, Tony Tucker. And he said to me, he's a really good guy. I'd heard Tucker's name. He had a reputation as a real gangster, running ecstasy dealers in clubs. And he had 100 odd doormen working for him. You know, if you fall out with them, they're going to freaking hurt you, yeah? And apparently people were saying he was doing too many drugs, a load of crack, getting paranoid. Next thing I know, Tony convinced Pat to basically be his enforcer. You know, people who didn't pay their debts, Tony would get Pat to smash them up, a crowbar on someone's kneecaps, and then Tony would get involved himself. When I used to sell drugs, you didn't need violence or threats. It was business. But with Tucker, it was clear that he lived for the violence, for the fear, for the intimidation. I just knew this wasn't going to be a good friendship that was going to end in a good way. But at the time, I had no idea how things were going to escalate. One night, Tony was at home with his girlfriend. Tony also had a relationship on the side. She phoned me up one night and she said, oh, hi Steve, where's Tony? I said, well, he's at home, isn't he? Probably shagging the arse of his other girlfriend by now. Just an off-the-cuff comment, rude, whatever you want to call it, that's what I said. And Tony didn't like it. You disrespected the great Tony Tucker. All of a sudden, Tony turned up to my house. He was like glassy eyes, a bit frothy. I don't know what he'd taken. He got me by the throat and he started hitting me in the head with a gun. And I honestly thought I was dead. But then, he's got me on the bed and he's pulled out this meat cleaver. And he's going, your hand on your foot. So I held out my right hand, shut my eyes and thought I'm going to scream. But then, for whatever reason, he's walked out the room. So I got out as fast as I could. I lived in fear. A couple of days later, my dad phoned me up and said someone knocked on the door. My dad was cautious. He's gone to the bedroom window that overlooked the front door. He's opened the window and the guy said, I'm looking for Steve. My dad went, you don't live here. And the guy went, oh, I've got something for him. Opened the waistcoat and showed the gun. He told my dad, Pat and Tony are going to get the family. I've got two sisters. One was 4, mum was 14. What they were going to do was chop my sister's fingers off, one at a time, until I would go and face the music. And that was it. I knew what I had to do. I was going to go kill them.
Why couldn't you go to the police?
What are they going to do? Smack them on the hand, say, naughty, naughty, don't do that. don't threaten Steve and his family. There's no going to the police. I had to kill them to get them off my family. And if I'd have died with it, that was irrelevant. That was totally irrelevant. I had to kill them. You got children, or someone hurt your sisters or brother, you'd fucking kill them. But I never had the bloody chance. Whatever time it was in the morning, the phones rang. My dad's gone, they're dead. I went, who's dead? And he said, Pat, Tony and Craig. I couldn't believe it. I said, Dad, what the hell have you done? Don't worry, nobody knows. He told me he killed them. He did it for his family.
These are obviously big claims being made by Steve Niprellis. We have to approach something like this with caution. There's clearly a motive, and he was associated to the victims. So we need to establish whether there's any credibility to the claims that he's making. Thanks for agreeing to meet with us. So your dad basically is confessed, and he's given you a detailed account of how Tate, Tucker and Rolf got killed and what happened.
My dad said that they drove up the lane. As they got to the gate, my dad's there with the pump. His words, if I get it wrong, I'll get it wrong. As my dad come round with the pump action, Pat's seen the pump action and gone like that. So he took the first blast in his ribs, right? Now, all I can assume is, you know how loud a shotgun is, it's deafening. So you've heard the shotgun, you've frozen, you shocked. Craig didn't move from what I've been told, right? So bang, so as soon as you load the pump, bang, in Craig's head, bang, in Tony's head. Didn't even know what freaking hit them.
Did your dad tell you in that much detail?
Possibly.
Right.
Because we spoke about it a couple of times. When he was dying, I went to see him in hospital a couple of times when he was dying.
When was that roughly?
2016 he died.
Right. And so when you was meeting him, he was still talking about it in 2016?
How can I explain it? It was like he wanted to we just talking.
It's really extreme if your dad did kill him. You know, it's a really extreme act.
My dad was a criminal well before I was flipping on the scene. I obviously see my dad and worship my dad as I worshipped him. He was frigging nuts. We had an argument with someone once. He pulled a blade out, and my old man's got this frigging knife, and he's stabbing the guy up in the broad frigging street.
So just talk through, tell me why. Did your dad say how he got Tucker, Tate and Rolf down the lane?
There was a drug drop set up. Pat, Tony and Craig, they was enticed to this meeting.
By who?
I don't know. He had his other friends, and I don't know who they were.
You know, when he was telling you the story, did he say what time of night this happened?
He didn't say a time.
Right, okay. And did he say what happened afterwards, where he went afterwards?
No.
So he didn't go into that sort of detail about...
No, I wouldn't have been interested.
Right.
Is there any way that you can help us corroborate what your dad told you? Where's that corroboration?
There's not.
There's not?
No. I've got no reason to lie. I get nothing out of this, right? I've got nothing to lie about. I'm just telling you what my dad told me.
How come it took so long? Give me your understanding of why you didn't tell the police, get the two guys you locked away, released from prison.
I'm sorry, look, without being rude, I don't care you don't believe me. Don't bother me that you don't bother me if anyone don't believe me.
You believe your dad did it, didn't you?
Yeah, I believe he did it, and good on him, right? I just wish they'd have frigging suffered, because from what I know, from what I've been told, and from what I've seen, they didn't bloody well suffer. They should have suffered. For all the shit that they caused, not just for me, but for everyone, they should have suffered. It shouldn't have gone as far as it's gone. And the fucking people should be in prison that are in prison, right? And them pieces of shit should have suffered. That's what I know.
dad sounds like a villain. His dad sounds like he could have been involved. He had the motive.
Yes.
Clearly, he had the motive, but didn't sound right. But it's just the way he said things.
Yeah.
Just didn't.
There's no corroboration. It just doesn't stack up.
Doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make sense.
Who lured him down the lane? Wasn't his dad capable of getting Tucker Tate and Rolfe down the lane for a serious drug deal? That would have needed much bigger players to be involved.
Nicker's dad wouldn't have been in that league.
To me, the whole ambush thing smells of a well-orchestrated, planned assassination. Smells of something far bigger.
Operation Tiberius Strategic Intelligence Report. Surveillance log. On the 16th of November 1995, ex-officer met crime boss who offered the hand of friendship by offering to take out the supply of the drugs to Leah Betts, who died of an overdose.
In the early 90s, before I went to prison, I was very entrenched within the London underworld. Drugs, robberies, violent kind of crime. And the crime groups I was connected to in London were the most powerful in the country. With drugs like ecstasy, there was massive amounts of money in it. We're talking hundreds of millions, certainly. And that money was fueling a power structure, all the way from running dealers on the street to buying politicians and police. The only thing that mattered was the bottom line, and anything that threatened that would be ruthlessly dealt with. The truth is, with Tucker, Tate and Rolfe, they had become a big problem. And they were doing things that meant people around me were losing a lot of money. That's where it went wrong for them. Not only was Tony Tucker behind the frame of what happened to Leah Betts, and all the heat on the ecstasy trade that happened because of that. It also goes a lot deeper. There was loose cannons with no respect. And it was common knowledge in criminal circles. There was robbing other drug dealers. That would include robbing bus lot in London. They would turn up to big deals. Instead of buying the drugs, they would just beat up whoever the dealer was, take the money and the drugs. There was constantly this kind of a thing going on. But they was doing massive amounts of cocaine and crack. You know, if frazzles the mind, they would do stupid stuff. But you can't have people robbing from you, or it's going to happen all the time. They probably thought they was invincible down there in Essex. But in this kind of industry, there's one thing's for sure: if you can't be controlled and you start to rise up, and then you're doing bad things to other firms, then there will be a time, there will be a comeuppance for that.
I don't think they realised how bad it got for them. I'd had a couple of phone calls about Tony. He's upsetting the wrong people. There was little warnings. But there was one night, it really became clear to me. It was Tony's birthday party. We was at Hollywood's in Romford. There was a big crowd of us. And it was all getting really messy, you know what I mean? Pat and Tony, they were taking E's, they was drinking and taking loads of cocaine. I mean, they were fucked out of their brains, laughing, joking and everything. But then I was standing to one side and these heavy duty people said to me, you need to speak to your pal, Tony. He's been crossing boundaries, which he shouldn't have done. The big boys, they won't have it. They're going to end up getting killed, these boys. This was 2 weeks before they died. Tony was my best pal. I tried to get him to listen, but he didn't care. He didn't care what they were doing, you know. I told him, this is fucking not right. If you keep going on and on and on, like a rabid dog, they'll end up putting you down.
This interview has been recorded at Forest Gate Police Station on Monday the 15th of January 1996. There are certain things we believe you can tell us about the killing of 3 people in Essex. Just trying to establish how the whole thing's set up.
Came in, sat at the table, started talking. Said we might just take him out of the game. So I'd like to be fucked.
Take them out of the game? What do you understand that to mean? Kill them?
Yeah. We're talking about people who shoot someone and think nothing of it.
I've just got to get clear what part you played exactly.
Driver. Drive someone, drive them away.
Who was that?
Hitman. Drops them off by the farm gates.
These interviews by a man we give called Witness A were recorded just over a month after the murders. They outline a conspiracy within organised crime to lure Tucker Tate and Ralph, the Essex boys, to their deaths, arranging a contract killing, because the Essex boys had stolen from them. The story that Witness A puts forward is that organised criminals had set up a robbery of a security van. Some of the proceeds of that robbery have been given, most likely, to Tucker to look after. But Tucker has spent the money. In their eyes, he's stolen the money from the armed robbery. He'd already upset so many people in organised crime. This was the final straw. If this version of events is true, it completely rules out Steele and Womes of any involvement and contradicts the story of Darren Nichols, as Witness A says he was the real getaway driver on the night of the murders. But the man giving this account is a criminal. So the question is he telling the truth? Roddy, we've come into possession of an interview of a man who we call Witness A, which were obtained originally by the defence and then passed on to us. One of the things we need to do is establish the credibility of that person, and my understanding is that you knew this man reasonably well.
So, my initial contact arose out of an investigation into a shooting in East London. Witness A was quickly identified as the primary suspect.
Right. He's a serious criminal himself.
Absolutely.
And how would you describe him?
An interesting individual. It was quite clear to me from an early stage that he had a good knowledge of East London criminals at the time, people concerned or suspected to be involved in contract killings.
Did you have any dealings with him after that?
I did. I continued to meet with him, and he was providing information, and we were subsequently able to verify much of the intelligence.
He had put information up, that information was corroborated and was correct.
Absolutely 100% correct.
When he was talking to Essex police, he spoke about his involvement in the Retna murders, and he spoke about some of the major players, big names, that had been involved in that, but it appears to have been brought out by police quite quickly. Is this something that you think should have been taken seriously at the time?
Absolutely. I would have anticipated that there would have been a whole raft of actions emanating from what witnesses say had put forward. It's an avenue of inquiry that you just cannot ignore.
There were a lot of lines of inquiry in this murder investigation, but I can't remember this one exactly. What I would say is that it is not unusual for members of the public to come forward and say sometimes that they are the killer, or in this case they were linked. Now, various people have various reasons for doing that, but sometimes it's to muddy the waters of the inquiry or whatever, and they're looked at seriously, but sometimes you can eliminate them as people who are self-publicists, if you like, or something of the like, and this person may have been one of those.
We don't know exactly why Witness A's account was ruled out, but for us it's clearly worth investigating. Was organised crime responsible? Is this account the true story of who did kill the Essex boys?
We're all a whole little clan. Said I got a bit of work for you, £5 grand. Drive someone, drive them away.
Who was that?
Here, man.
Would you hear what your instructions all that? Where to go, what to do?
Back in town.
This is Canning Town. This is where Witness A said he was instructed by top-level criminals who put the contact out. And from the moment I read his account and this location, it immediately rang alarm bells with me. I was a detective here. I worked here for years in the serious and organised crime squad. This has always been one of the major crime hotspots in London. And the particular crime syndicate Witness A named is well known to me. I know exactly how dangerous these people are. You know, they're linked to armed robbers, drug dealers, murders, corrupt policemen, criminality at the highest level. And so for me, it gives a credibility to Witness A's account because they're exactly the type of people who would arrange and carry out a contract killing.
Told me to pick the hitman up. Hitman got in the car. He didn't say too much. He had a sports bag with him. In the bag was a pump-action shotgun. At 12, maybe a bit later, he was gone. Left me sitting there.
Stephen, how are you?
Hello.
Right.
You alright? Hello, fine, thanks.
Good. So Stephen, can you just run me through what you saw or heard on the night of the murders?
Yeah, I came up here at around midnight to feed our foal. Then I heard some shots which appeared to come from that direction.
Right.
If there'd been a couple of shots, I would have ignored it because farmers come out and shoot rabbits. But as the shots continued to around 6, I made a note of it.
So it was unusual.
It was very unusual, especially as it was extremely cold night.
Right.
That someone was out there.
Yeah. And how certain are you about the timing?
Because the foal was being weaned. My wife fed her at 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
And when I came in, I had the job of feeding her at 12. And I looked at my watch and I thought, well, I'm spot on time, she'd be pleased with that.
Right, so you checked your watch and...
Yeah, I did.
And it was absolutely certain it's 12 o'clock?
I was certain it was 12 o'clock.
What did the police say about that?
I felt that they had other pieces of evidence about the time. The timing was said to be 7 o'clock. But I think there was somebody walking their dog at 7 o'clock that didn't hear anything. So I'm certain of the time.
The deeper we go into Witness A's account, the more details there are that seem to have been dismissed.
When you went there that night, did you go to 127 and Whitford?
No, we come the other way.
When police first interviewed him, we know one thing they did was ask Witness A to show them where he dropped the hitman, which was a completely different location from Darren Nichols' account. Just over there, literally a couple of hundred yards, is the crime scene where the murders took place. And a few hundred yards in that direction is Rectory Lane, which is where the witness took police and showed police exactly where the assassin had got out of the car. The murder, according to the crowd, witness Darren Nichols had been based on the fact that Jack Williams walked from Nichols' car down Workhouse Lane to the scene of the murders. Witness A gives a completely different version of events. They didn't come down that way, they didn't come through Rettendon, they didn't come to Workhouse Lane. They took the next exit along, which by road seems much further away from the crime scene. I don't think the police realised or understood the significance of what the witness was saying and how close, by foot, it is to this murder scene. Literally, it's a walk along this tree line. It makes perfect sense if you don't want to be seen. And it goes on. Witness A describes the assassin as wearing a tracksuit, a rolling jumper and trainers, significantly trainers, because when the scene was forensically examined, one of the only shoe prints that was recovered was a right foot trainer print immediately by the offside rear door of the Range Rover, which would suggest that he's leant into the car with the shotgun, killing Tucker Tate and Rolf dead. When you pull everything together and you look at this witness's account and the evidence that supports it, you know, the footprint, a series of shots being fired at just after midnight, and the route that the assassin took, this is a very compelling version of events. But it's not new evidence. Some of it actually appeared at the original trial. For a real chance to appeal the convictions of Steele and Williams, we'll need something far more solid.
Yeah, Mick, it's been you're stuck in here for so long. The family's suffering. Believe you me, they're suffering. Get me freedom, get with my wife and kids is more important than anything.
brother Jack done 25 years. But to a lot of people, he's still a guilty man. Until the conviction is overturned, he can't go near the internet and he can't talk to the media about the case. And he's living with a lot of sacrifices. When he first went away, you know, his kids was 7 and 8 years old. That's a, you know, he didn't want them kids to miss out. They did. They missed out every other day. Now, we just all want to get on. You know, we just want to get on with the life, but you still got that bit hanging over you to prove that innocent. I've always believed that the real killers are still out there. You want to know the truth, don't you? It needs to come out.
We've been contacted by someone who says that he was involved in the robbery, which say he talks about. I've done some checks. He is who he says he is. So this could be really important. This could prove or disprove what witness A says in his evidence. This is crucial, absolutely crucial.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks for agreeing to meet with us. Why did you want to meet us today?
Good question. I've got no reason really to come forward. I've spoken with my family members about this, and they were against it. Did I regret coming down here today? I had second thoughts. If you're involved in something like this, you just try and forget about it, put it in the back of your mind as such. I wanted to block it out for years, but now it's just time. And if it helps still in an appeal, it helps still. But you try and get to the truth of the murders, and this is the truth.
Can you sort of start at the very beginning and tell me exactly what you know, or you know what your involvement was?
There was a gun robbery. Basically, the robbery is the key to it all, really.
Right. How were you connected?
It was my job. I had organised it, and what it was a van of cash. £495,000 got stolen.
From the armed robbery?
Yeah. But the whole thing was a balls up, if you like, because very shortly after the robbery, some of the robbers went splashing the money.
Right.
And it wasn't long before everyone knew what had happened. Word got about, they couldn't keep their mouth shut, basically.
Right.
So it was quite common knowledge. So we got arrested. While we was in jail, some of the money was given to Tony Tucker, but it was just given to him for safekeeping.
Okay.
When we got out, obviously asked for the money back. That was not forthcoming. Excuses were made.
What sort of excuses?
Well, he's just tied up, this sort of thing, he couldn't get it, just bullshit excuses really.
Right, okay.
Yeah. By then he's drugged up, steroids up, he's running around doing all sorts of business. And in the end we knew it just wasn't coming back.
Right.
You know, Tucker thought he was bigger than everyone, he thought that there's nothing no one could do. He was wrong. Well, there is something we can do. A meeting was held and the problem was solved.
What does that mean? What do you mean by that?
Well, what happened? Shock. The money was paid and Tucker was murdered.
So who paid that money?
Myself.
Wow.
Ah. At the end of the day, I wasn't going to go rolling around the floor. I wasn't bothered about the money. The money was irrelevant. It was principle.
The target of the murder, the assassination, was purely Tucker.
Yes.
Right. So what happened with Craig Rolfe and Pat Tate?
No idea. They're obviously there, obviously. And it's collateral damage. They weren't the target. Unfortunately, it's wrong place, wrong time.
Do you know who actually committed the murders?
I never knew who was actually involved. I've never been told who actually pulled the trigger.
Right.
Never. Yeah, obviously, I knew it was done.
Yeah.
When I read about it. But I can remember opening up a newspaper and there it was.
Do you know who lured them down the lane?
No. I just paid money across. After that, I don't need to know.
Do you think that either Michael Steele or Jack Wones were involved in this?
Not in any shape or form whatsoever.
How can you be so sure?
He was ordered through serious players from East London, Canning Town area. Steele, Wones, they weren't big players at all.
Oh, what do you reckon of that? I'll tell you what, if he's telling a bloody pack of lies, he's bloody good at it.
I can't understand why anyone would come forward and confess to conspiracy to murder. Why he wants to do that, I don't know, but it is quite incredible, quite shocking, really.
If we were 7 cops, we'd have nicked him, he'd be in the cells by now, wouldn't he? You know, that's the bottom line, that's a real hard truth of it. He's admitted conspiring to murder Tucker, and he should get his collar felt and nicked.
You're right, but potentially that's new evidence.
Yeah.
That corroborates witness A. He's saying Steele and Wones didn't do it, and this was a well-planned assassination undertaken by organised crime.
There is no doubt in my mind that Michael Steele and Jack Wones perpetrated this crime. Even though over the years people have tried their hardest to, you know, disprove what the police managed to achieve. But although Steele and Wones have professed their innocence as loudly as they can, the convictions of these 2 men are probably as strong as you'll ever get.
The fact is, we've got more material than's ever existed before that casts new light on what happened all those years ago. Ever since the rise of the Essex boys and their murders, this case has been enormous.
The hunt for the killers has led to intense speculation the murders are connected to the death of Leah Betts.
But there's still so many questions that remain unanswered. And we might never know everything that happened down that lane. Or all of the players involved.
The 3 men had to be identified by their fingerprints. It's thought they were killed by a gangland hitman.
And yet our investigation has put a real spotlight on how the criminal underworld works in this country. And raised questions about truth and justice. And though we may never prove absolutely categorically Michael Steele and Jack Womes are innocent, what we found throws doubt on the convictions and should at least be enough to get this case looked at again.